It's morning here in Western Australia, anyway, and we are back for another amazing episode of Become the Light from the Shadows of Abuse, the podcast that brings you the stories of incredible women who've overcome their own past trauma and abuse to create lives that are successful, that they love, and on their terms, just to show you who might be stuck in a situation at the moment that you are wondering, how do I get out of this? Maybe someone's told you you can't, maybe they've told you you can't recover. And all of these stories are here to let you know that that's not true. And these wonderful women come on to share their experiences and to light up the path for you to take a different step in your own life. And today's guest, as usual, I'm going to ask her to introduce herself. Today's guest is Eloise Skye, and she's a movement and meditation teacher, and also works with intuition. So I'm going to hand over to Eloise, and I'm going to ask her to tell you a bit more about herself. So welcome, Eloise. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me. So I kind of left the corporate lifestyle to teach Pilates and to teach meditation because I decided that I just really wanted to help people. And then as I've been getting more into meditation, I've been connecting to my intuition a lot more. And we all have access to our intuition, but for some of us it's louder, and for some of us we need to work a little harder to find it. But so that's kind of led me into doing things like Reiki healing and tarot reading, and a little bit of astrology as well. So I'm really passionate about using all of these things to help people to just connect with themselves, so that they can find their truth, find their purpose, and just live the life that they want to live and that they're meant to live. Not necessarily the life that we've kind of been programmed to live, but at the same time, there are people where that is their path and they're perfectly content to do that. So there's no like one way is better than the other, but I think for anyone that has that little scratching itch that maybe there's something more, then that's where this work can certainly help.
Yeah, I love what you said there about there isn't just one way. There are plenty of ways out there to heal from whatever you've been through and to create something different in your life, or just to enhance the life that you have at the moment. And of course, it's important that you don't do it someone else's way. You actually do it your way. And personally, obviously, I work with hypnotherapy, but I can really relate to what you're doing with the meditation and the movement and the intuition, because I know that when we tap into that, it is a huge, huge factor in our lives, and can be so positive when we understand the importance of being still and being connected to ourselves through meditation. But then the movement, being connected to our bodies. And as you say, as we become more connected to self, then we really do start to understand. It's not that the intuition becomes stronger. I think it's that we understand it and that we start to listen to what we were previously ignoring. So all of those things, so important. But so that's who you are now. Yes. Wonderful, amazing work. But obviously it's not who you have always been. So as usual, just go back in time for us and tell us more about who you used to be and the journey that you've been on to get to where you are now.
Sure. So I think I've always been interested in kind of metaphysical things, since I was a young age, like crystals and astrology and tarot and all of that stuff. But even from like a very, very young age, I can remember just being so kind of captivated by it. But you go to school and you go to university and you kind of have to choose, or at least you're strongly encouraged to choose a path and to choose a career. So I sort of left all of that behind, and I guess I just chalked it up to being sort of a bit of a phase, or sort of thought that I'd kind of matured and grown past it. So I went to university, and then I ended up being an employment law consultant, employment relations. And so I did that for probably about 5 or 6 years. And I did love it. I was very passionate about it, but I was working for a consulting firm. So it was kind of billable hours. Like I'm very kind of motivated by targets and kind of performing well. So I was working a lot, and I was definitely on a fast track to burnout. And then
I think that's a phrase people need to pay attention to as well,
yes,
because we do get very caught up in, even if we seem to be enjoying it, we get caught up in what's expected and
yes.
accepted. And I love that you just dropped that phrase into there. It is so important that people recognize that so many people are just caught on this treadwheel. The fast track to burnout is what we
Mm,
might as well call it, where we are
yes.
motivated by things outside of ourselves, that are not that good for us physically, mentally, emotionally. So thank you for dropping that phrase in there. I'm sure that will land with quite a few people who are thinking, why am I so tired? Why am I exhausted? Why don't I ever have time for myself?
Yes, exactly. And also, I guess just on that point, like, I was earning lots of money and I was buying lots of nice things. And, you do like, I didn't know who I was at all. And I think for a lot of people, particularly in your mid 20s, or even, everyone comes to their realization at different points in time. But um, you kind of think, well, I've done all of the things. Why am I so unhappy? Like,
Mm.
why am I so like lost? Um, and I remember I had this very, very vivid memory of sitting down with one of my colleagues. He's a very good friend of mine. I think we were just having a wine after work on a Friday, and he just sort of, because I think he could kind of tell where I was at, and he just said, you need to have at least three passions in life. So what are your passions? And if you don't know, then you need to like work on finding them. And I didn't know. I couldn't even answer the question. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I was passionate about. I didn't know what I was into. I was just working all the time, going to the gym, going out, buying things. Like that was kind of my life.
I can,
And I
I
think,
can, I can
yeah,
relate to that, because that's exactly how I was in my, I in my mid 20s for sure, but for a very long time after that.
yeah,
Probably another 20 years after that. Just
yeah,
because what happens is we have the internal void of not knowing who we are, not loving ourselves, not thinking that we're totally and unconditionally acceptable. And
yes,
it creates this void inside, and we try and fill it with things
mm,
outside of ourselves, not knowing that the only way to fill it is internally. It
exactly.
comes back to happiness is an internal job. So anyone who feels that void inside that they're trying to fill with, we're so good. Goodness me, we are good as women at filling it with work, filling it with a corporate career, filling it with being busy, racing from one thing to another. Heaven forbid that we should ever stop and spend time with and look at ourselves. So we
Yes,
keep ourselves busy. But guys,
yes.
I'm here to tell you, I've done this work with hundreds of people. I've done it for myself. There is no answer outside of yourself. The void is the lack of relationship that you have with yourself. I can absolutely guarantee it. Don't waste years. Don't waste any more time. Just stop. Stop and look at your relationship with yourself. That's where it's all at. So carry on. Sorry, I
Yeah.
just thought
I,
that's one of my passions, getting people to understand that this void, you can't fill it outside. God knows I've
yeah,
spent enough years trying to do it. Yeah.
exactly. And even actually, just to kind of go on another tangent, I meet a lot of people who are kind of addicted to this being busy. They constantly have plans, they're constantly doing this. Even if they are exhausted, they just always want to be out and about. And that's fine. Some people are more extroverted than others, but it's concerning when people say that the reason that they are being so busy is because they don't like to be by themselves. They don't like to be alone. They don't
Yes.
like the thoughts that come up. So they're basically just trying to squash them down. Um, and it's basically shutting out that relationship with yourself
Yeah.
by trying to just avoid it and shut it out, and then you're kind of not as in touch with what you need or what you want or who you are, and it makes it very difficult to process things or to set boundaries when you don't know at your core what you need, and how you kind of want to be. You're kind of just going along with things, and I think a lot of the time there's kind of a bit of a people pleasing element as well, because then when you're sort of in that pattern, then you're not thinking so much about what your own needs are.
Yeah, you're thinking about being acceptable and being accepted. So you
Yeah,
do what's right for everyone else. And apart from that, you don't know what's right for you anyway. And if you don't know, then just go along with whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It's that denial of self, and
yes,
all healing starts with coming back to yourself. And of course, the problem is, here's the thing that we all have to understand: no one is born feeling like that.
mm,
We're all born loving ourselves. We're
mm,
all born as babies knowing that we're lovable. The
yeah,
first thing a baby does is reach out. You put a finger in a baby's hand, and it clasps it. It's looking for connection. And
yeah,
all babies know that they are lovable. And what changes is our experiences. It's what happens to us. That is the only thing that changes our perception of ourselves. And it's so easy as we're growing up for us. Well, quite a few people have neglectful parents, but
mm,
even parents who are very controlling, very critical, have very high and unreasonable expectations, narcissistic parents. All of these are very damaging, because children grow up certain that they are not good enough, and
mm,
therefore they are not lovable. And that's what happens. And if it doesn't happen in the home, it happens at school. The teachers, with children are they're very vulnerable, they're very malleable, and when they're looking for acceptance and they don't get it, they just decide that it's about them. And then we all start to run the story that we're not good enough and we're not lovable, and it creates that void that we take into adult life.
yeah. And we start to look for love outside of ourselves, and so that's why we're
Yes.
we're maybe trying to kind of build an image, but the most important relationship that we will ever have is the one with ourselves, because that is ultimately all that we have. And I do also think, though, that this kind of concept of self-love, it can be quite nebulous, in the sense that that it's very kind of, it's spoken about a lot, but not often in a lot of depth about what it actually looks like to have self
Right.
love and to love yourself. And it's not about taking a bubble bath, although that is, part of it for me because I do enjoy a bath. But it's about taking care of yourself, as you would take care of someone else. So often we treat ourselves worse than we would treat anyone else in our lives, whether that's with our actions, our commitments, being disciplined, the things that we tell ourselves, the food we put into our bodies. We kind of, it's almost like a lot of the time we are the afterthought, and we're just thinking about what everyone else, how we can take care of everyone else without thinking about how we can take care of ourselves.
Yeah, and it's that whole we call it, oh, love yourself, but it's about self-acceptance as well, and being at peace with who you are, and knowing that you're good enough, and that your opinion and your values and your voice, that all of these things are important, that you are important, that you have value and worth, and you have a place in the world. That's really the self-love that we're looking for. As you say, you would want anyone in your life to have all of those things, so you need to want to have them for yourself. And it's interesting you were talking about the negative things that we say, because obviously when you love yourself, all the negative things stop. Because what I say to people is, you would never be friends with someone who speaks to you like you speak to yourself. So you've
Yeah,
got to become your own best friend, and
exactly.
stop talking to yourself in that way, because the
Yeah.
mind reacts to the words and images that you feed it. It learns by repetition. So stop feeding yourself all these negative thoughts and words and images about yourself. And that's when we move into self-love. And of course, people think that it's important that you're talking about everything being about you and being really selfish and self-centered. And it's the absolute opposite, because obviously, when someone shows up completely at peace and very self confident, with all their values and boundaries and everything intact, it's like a magnet for the right people. And it means that you're just constantly receiving and constantly giving in this beautiful balance to the right people, the right things in the right way. And it just leads to this wonderful flow of give and take, and abundance. And that's what real self-love leads to. It's the very, very opposite of being selfish. It's about you being full enough to be able to give in the right way. So I
Yeah,
just think it's such a
definitely.
such a big and deep topic that is often
And
not discussed in enough
and it,
detail. People get confused about what it means, and a lot of people will ask,
yes.
"Oh, isn't it selfish to love myself in that way?" And then you have to explain why.
Yes, and when you do, it's a more authentic self that you're putting forward. So you're
Yes.
connecting to more people, and when you're authentic and you accept yourself, it tells other people that they can be authentic and they can accept themselves. So instead of having all of these sort of vanilla kind of, you know,
Facades almost.
yes, exactly, kind of fitting in within a certain spectrum without that many outliers. We're all over the spectrum, and we're all colorful and have all of these unique characteristics and traits and ways of seeing things. Yeah. So I think as well, just on the point of kind of acceptance, I think it's only, this is kind of something that I'm working on at the moment. I think it's only once you kind of can start to quiet your mind. So that's sort of where the meditation comes into it. And then
Yes.
hear what's happening, what's going on, that you can start to know yourself. And once you know who you are, the good and the bad. So the shadow work is just as important. We all have aspects of ourselves that might not necessarily be accepted by society, but rather than suppressing them, we just need to be aware of them, and then they won't blindside us. And once we're aware of both our shadow aspects and our lighter aspects, then we can begin to accept ourselves for what we are, and then we can once we accept ourselves, we can then really start to love ourselves, and live our authentic truth and our authentic purpose, because we can say, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. Some of it looks like this, some of it looks like that. And then I think the more people that do that, then the better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the important thing about that is, I love that you said it's important to look at and accept the good and the bad, because the things that you don't like about yourself, you can then change if you want to.
Mm,
You're changing them for you because you have seen them, not because someone else has told you that you need to or you should, or because they've said you're this way or you're that. No, this is about you looking at yourself and changing you because you want to, or because you recognize the need to. And that's very important as well. That obviously the authentic change that we make is change that we see for ourselves. No one else can ever make anyone else change. It's always very false and very short lived when we
Yes.
try and control and manipulate someone else into changing. It has to come from them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, just on what you said about changing, it's kind of like if you get in touch with yourself and you see something that you don't necessarily like, yes, you can either change it or you can accept it.
Accept it.
It's
Yep.
one or the other.
Yep. Change it if you want to,
Yeah,
or yeah, or live with it and manage it, or just say no. This is a part of me, and
yeah,
yeah, absolutely right. So,
yeah.
but tell us a bit more about you. Obviously, there's a reason that you started all of this. So, yeah. So, what was your story that led you down this path?
Yeah, so coming back to my story, let's go back to my corporate career. I sort of had a little bit of a quarter life crisis and moved to London when I think I was about 26 or 27. And
Moved to London from Brisbane, Australia. Yes,
from
let's
Brisbane,
make that
yes.
clear. Yeah, most
Yeah.
people move the other way. But I know why you wanted to go to London. It's an amazing city for sure. But yeah, I just
It's a very exciting city.
interesting for
Um,
people to understand that you moved from Brisbane to London.
yeah, I mean, I always say that London on a sunny day, there's nowhere I'd rather be
Oh,
because
I
it's beautiful.
I
They're just so
agree with
few and far
you.
between.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, the history, the architecture, it is a stunning city. It's incredible. You're never done exploring London, that's for sure. No, I agree with you there. It's an amazing
yeah,
city. Yeah, I love to
definitely.
go there whenever I'm in the UK, spend
Yeah.
time there. Yeah, it's great. Very different to
Um,
Brisbane for sure.
yeah, it is. It is. They are worlds apart, but they both have a place in my heart. Um, so I moved to London just because I sort of, well, I guess going back to that corporate kind of burnout situation, I'd
Mm-hmm.
been to Europe for a 3 or 4 week holiday over the summer, and I just remember getting back to my office and just being like, do I have to work another like 48 weeks before I can get another 4 weeks to go and do that again? I was like,
Right.
no, no, no. Um, so so yeah, I just decided to move to London because then travel is so much more accessible. I just wanted to I guess live out the rest of my 20s kind of traveling and seeing things, because a lot of people around me were settling down, and I wasn't ready for that. I mean, I still don't feel like I'm ready for that, but everyone's
And
on
you
their
don't have to
own.
be.
No,
This is
exactly.
what we were saying earlier about doing what's right for you and being authentically who you are, rather than doing what is expected and accepted. Just
Yes.
be yourself,
Yeah.
being and doing what is right for you. So yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe that isn't right for you, and maybe it's something you will. Now, I have two 24-year-olds who are adamant that they are never getting married and never having children, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they're only 24 and they may or may not change their minds, but honestly, it's their lives. It's
Yes.
and they need to do what's right for them. So
And I think it's important to be making these decisions consciously,
mhm.
rather than kind of going along with what everyone else is doing. And that's what I realized. I said, I'm a little bit bored in Brisbane. This isn't really the life that I want. So I packed my life up and I moved to London, and I was sort of planning to go there for a year or two and see what happened. But that turned into 7 years very, very rapidly. And so I found it quite difficult to get a job in the field I was working at. But as I got there, I was like, I'm happy to do anything. I just want to, have fun and explore and see what happens. So I ended up being a PA for most of the time that I was there, until I left to teach Pilates. So I was working as a PA, I was traveling a lot, and then I met this guy who also happened to be from Brisbane. And um, it was wonderful, probably for the first couple of months. Like, we got along really, really well. Like, very, very similar sense of humor, you know, just when you have so much fun with someone. But then I think as things progress in relationships, then people's true colors kind of start to come out. And I think, like, he's well, was, I don't know about now, but like a very, very insecure person. He was very possessive. I think he didn't like my confidence. I think he felt threatened by it, because at that stage I was quite confident and sort of knew who I was, but I think I still had a little bit of work to do,
Mhm.
in terms of kind of finding myself in this situation. But
And
it can happen to anyone, for
you
sure.
just said something very, very important there, that's important, that I want people to understand. You were talking about your confidence and how what you see now is that he was threatened by that. And
Mm,
I find that such a powerful sentence and realization, especially for anyone listening, because when someone is controlling, when someone is manipulative, and when they are taking over like that and trying to diminish you and put you down, it is important to understand this, that the only reason someone will do that to you is if they feel threatened. We only diminish and put down what we fear. If he
yeah,
didn't fear you and wasn't threatened by you, he would be helping you, supporting you, motivating you, helping you to grow and be the best version of you. So if someone in your life is not helping you to be the best version of you, it is because they are somehow threatened by you, or they fear what will happen if you do become the best version of you. And it is so important to understand that. That can be a massive shift, because we see the person who is jealous, who is manipulative, who is taking control. We see them as so powerful. And when you understand that they are actually threatened, it enables you to really, really diminish them in your mind, in the situation. And you can start to look at what's going on behind what they do and what they say. And it enables you to take back what you are losing, or to understand the situation far more quickly than you would if you carry on seeing this person as this powerful entity that somehow has this control over you. So thank you so much for bringing that up in that simple sentence. That can be life changing for people, understanding that the person controlling you is threatened by you. That is
mm.
huge. So thank you.
And I think as well, um, people that are kind of like that, and they see someone embodying something that they wish they had, they just want to pull everyone down into
Yes,
their level
because
rather
they
than
can't.
letting people ascend.
Yes, because that they have a choice. They can either stay where they are and let you go, or they can elevate themselves. But it's when they see that they can't do the elevating, or they find themselves wanting in comparison to you, that they then need to try and bring you back down.
Yeah,
That's, yeah, absolutely. And it's a game changer to understand that.
yeah, definitely. And I think I did sort of realize along the course of the relationship that he was quite insecure. He was very, very jealous. I never gave him any reason to be jealous, but later found out that it was because he was being unfaithful, of course.
Oh, and that is so, goodness me, that is so normal.
Yeah, I know, I know. And so that kind of, so it was all great for a few months, and then bit by bit he sort of started to put me down, and was kind of being very jealous, very possessive, you know, going through my phone, that kind of thing, which I knew was a massive red flag. But things were so good when they were good. So we'd fight about these things because I would call him out on it. I'd say, this isn't cool. You need to stop doing this. What kind of person are you, like, to be doing this? This is not the relationship I want to be in. And I would try and break up with him over these things, over various things, over him being dishonest to me. But when I would try and have those conversations with him, he would completely lose it and punch walls. And so in that situation, you'll kind of have like the immediate you that's like, okay, I need to like diffuse this before things escalate. But then in the back of my mind, I just remember a few occasions of just being like, I need to somehow work out how to like unentangle myself from this situation, because this is not good. This is not the person I want to be with, and this is not the life that I want to have. And that was even quite early on. So we were together for about probably a bit over a year. I mean, it seems like a lot longer because of all of the things that happened. um,
You've pointed out a lot of things here. This is why we get stuck, because it's like you said, in the beginning it was so good, so you have all the memory of that, and you get trapped by the illusion. You want that back. That's what you're focusing on, and the fact that it's not bad all the time. So, but then I think the balance starts to change, doesn't it? So it starts off and it's like this 99% good, and then gradually it drops down until before you know it, you've got like 20% good and 80% of it is bad, and the whole thing is switched around. But we talk about this a lot. We get caught up in the illusion of what it was, and we are so certain that we can get that back, or that it's not that bad because the good times are good. But as you say, it's good that you always had those voices there telling you, no, I need to get out of this. But it's important to point out, as you did, that when a man is punching a wall, as a woman, that's terrifying, because that wall could be you.
Exactly. And also throwing things. I think one time he threw something, and he didn't throw it at me. I do believe that, but it kind of narrowly missed me, so it could have been me very easily. And as you say, I think it's the illusion of having how things could have been, but it's also the possibility of what it could be if it was that good all the time when it is good.
Yes.
And also what was going through my mind. So we were both aware of these fights that we would have that were very like, it was a very volatile relationship, and because his insecurity would bring it out of me, because it's like, well, if you think it's okay to behave like this, then I'm going to behave like this. So, and that's not the person I am, and that's not the person I want to be either. So we were aware, neither of us enjoyed the fights, but we were kind of actively trying to work on our relationship and work on things, because there's the saying that all relationships take work. So it was kind of like, how much work is this? Okay, are we going to be able to overcome this? Is this something that we can kind of get through? And it would kind of be like we'd be okay for a while, and then no, and then no, and no. And then so eventually I did manage to break up with him, although it was actually him that said it, but I think he was bluffing. I think it was one morning when we were getting ready for work, and we'd been kind of having a little bit of an argument about something, and he just said, I think we should break up. And I was like, yep, we should. And he was completely taken aback, and I was like, no, this is it. And so that was that. But then we had booked to go on holiday probably like 2 months after, and there was kind of a bit of
split up. Did you split up for those 2 months?
Yeah, we split up, didn't see each other. Like, I don't really keep in contact with my ex. I think he was still trying to keep in contact with me and see me, and I was like, no. And when it came to the holiday, it was a bit of back and forth as to whether or not I would go, because I didn't want to go with him. So I was potentially going to sort of go there and then go somewhere else, or just not go at all. And he ended up convincing me to go with him. And I mean, my mum didn't know what he was like, but I do remember her saying, like, "Are you sure it's a good idea to go on a holiday with this guy? Like, is he?" Is she made a joke saying, "Is he gonna murder you?" I think that's actually what she said, and I was like, and I do remember thinking, he's expressed these behaviors in the past. He's never physically threatened me, but I knew it wasn't completely outside the realm of possibility. But I also told myself that because I'm fairly athletic and he's not, that if things did escalate, that I'd kind of be able to handle myself. And the holiday was fine. Like we got along because at essence we did get along really well when we were both,
Which,
being our best selves.
which explains why you decided to go, because you thought, well, if we can get along for this time, this is going to be a great time. And that's
Yes,
obviously what you were focusing on.
yes. And so it was until the last night, of course, which is kind of how these things go. And we started having an argument. And I guess, I don't know, maybe for him it was because it was clear that I wasn't interested in being with him or reconciling with him, and he could just kind of see me slipping away, and that wasn't what he wanted to happen, because that wasn't what he wanted, and he was definitely someone that was used to getting what he wanted. And anyway, so we had this fight and it really, really escalated, and he kind of grabbed me and like threw me down onto the bed, and I screamed, one of those like instinctual, like blood curdling screams. And then people from the hotel came and were like knocking on the door, asking if everything was okay. And so from then it kind of diffused, but it was so terrifying. And I left very early in the morning, and I just said to him that he wouldn't ever see me again, after that, and that's basically how it ended. Like, I haven't seen him since. But after that, I think you don't really realize how terrifying that situation is until you're in it. Like, it left me very, very anxious, and I think the entire relationship really hurt my confidence.
Yeah, because you
And
couldn't trust yourself. You couldn't trust your judgment. You couldn't trust that people were who they seemed to be.
yeah, I was really, really, upset with myself for finding myself in that situation. Like the story that I've just told. If anyone had told me before that, I would have been like, that wouldn't happen to me. But it just happened so easily, and all of these little kind of manipulative and emotionally abusive tactics. It's not just one big thing. It's lots of little things, and then before you know it, you don't have as many friends because they either, you're not seeing them as much because you feel like you can't, or they just don't want to see you because they don't want to deal with the drama, of like every time you see them, you're like, well, then this happened and blah blah blah, and not being able to understand, why you're still with this person. And then I think as well, when you're making the decision to be with someone and people aren't supportive of it, then it can make you turn away from them as well. Um, and also, I think, um, with how it ended, um, it kind of, I think if it hadn't ended that way, then I probably would still be wondering about it. It had to end like that for me to
Yes.
never see him again. Because otherwise, a few years pass, and then rose tinted glasses. You're like, maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe we could have worked it out. Maybe that was rash, but that's what needed to happen for it to end for good. And I think as well, like, whether it's you or whether it's like a friend that's going through a relationship that's like this, like, you cannot leave something until you're ready. Like, it wasn't the first relationship that I'd had where I hadn't been treated that well. And things happen and things happen and things happen. And then one day you just wake up and you're like, no, this isn't it. But everyone can tell you that for months and months and months. But until you're actually ready to make that decision and
That
to move
decision,
forward. And
there's that decision that turns up on every podcast
yeah.
where everyone, people say, so how do I start? With a decision,
Yes.
with a decision that you then take responsibility for. Yeah.
Mm.
Always
And
that decision that just draws the line.
and there might be some false starts, like all of the times that I tried to break up with him, but I think they do still get you a little bit closer to hopefully being able to carry through with it. So as horrible and traumatic as those events were, I can see that's how it had to end. So I can kind of look at it in this sort of quite philosophical way. But the next day, while I was waiting for my flight, I was lying on the beach, and I just kind of had this moment of, okay, what am I what am I doing with my life? What is going on here? What, like, it was kind of this realization that all you really have is yourself. So I was like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do for me? What do I want my life to look like? What do I want to do with my work? Because at that stage, I'd been in London for probably 2.5, 3 years. So I'd been out of my career industry for quite a while. So it was kind of this crossroads of, like, either hightail it back home, pick that back up, or start something new. And the possibilities are endless of what you could do. So I decided that I wanted to help people. I didn't want to work in corporate. I didn't want to I didn't want to, like, be part of that world anymore. So I decided that I wanted to teach Pilates because I had some really transformational experiences with Pilates. I sort of found it when I was rehabilitating an injury, and it's so accessible to everyone, whatever your age is, whatever your background is. It's
Tell us
just,
about that. Tell us about that, because I understand it. I
yeah,
understand the yoga and the Pilates connection to self and to body,
yeah.
but you can probably say more about that than I can. Why it's so important that instead of doing these exercises, I mean, not instead of, alongside, we do these exercises that are all about strength and fitness and everything, but the importance of being still and connecting stiller with these gentle movements that are still very, very challenging. Pilates, some of the movements, and yoga, but this connection to self, tell us a bit more about that.
So Pilates is very functional movement. So everything that you do in Pilates is going to help you for every other movement that you do in your life, whether that is walking, whether it's looking after your kids, whether it's doing housework, whether it's any other sport or physical activity that you do. Um, it just helps. That's just what it's designed for. Um, but in Pilates, there's a very it requires a lot of concentration. A lot of it has a coordination element of it, and it's connecting the body and the breath. So it can become like a meditation when you are moving and breathing kind of in this unison. Um, and so that's and even and this is a part of Pilates that is kind of glossed over by a lot of teachers. But the guy that invented Pilates, Joseph Pilates, his whole thing was um, about being connected to, I think he says Pilates is the coordination of mind, body, and spirit. So you're bringing all of these things together. He had a lot of ideas about meditation, about taking care of the mind. A lot of people just focus on the movement component, but it's kind of almost like I've really, when I read his books, I was like, no, I see exactly what he says. It's about taking care of your body as well as taking care of your mind. And so I sort of embarked on my trainings and things because I just wanted to undo all of this I don't want to call it damage, because I think that is a little bit extreme. All of these things that happen to our bodies and happen to our minds as a result of our modern lifestyle. So, we're sitting at desks for a long time. Like, most of us do not have ideal posture because we're hunching forwards, we're sitting, we have tight hip flexors, weak glutes. We're becoming very imbalanced in our bodies, which can make us very injury prone. But then also with the minds and the busyness and the overwhelm, like, it's so hard not to be overwhelmed. I mean, especially at the moment with coronavirus, there's a lot that's going on. There's everyone is doing it tough in some way or another, and just kind of trying to work it out and make it through. And the more you can kind of learn to manage your thoughts and to kind of not get so caught up in those thought loops and that kind of anxiety bringing thoughts, then the more you can kind of be still and be calm and be present. So that's Pilates.
No, no, and it's wonderful. I don't think people understand it enough. I haven't done it for a while, but
Oh,
I did do it for a little while, and it is wonderfully calming
yeah,
to connect the breathing and the body and the mind and
yeah.
all of those things. And I just want to go back while we're talking about that connection to yourself. You came up with another phrase. I wrote it down when you said it, and this is really important. What you said was, you have to understand that really all you have is yourself.
Mm,
And let's not underestimate the power of that. No,
mm,
that's why it's important that we love and appreciate ourselves, that we show up with self-confidence, certainty, we as a genuine and authentic version of ourselves, because all we have is ourselves. We literally, we might be married, we have friends, but those people are outside of us. We don't know what they're thinking, we don't control their thoughts, their actions. Hopefully those people are with us because they want to be, but the only person we really have is ourselves. So
mm.
we have to show up with the knowledge and self confidence that we are enough. And I just
Yes.
loved the way that you said that all you really have is yourself. And when you think about that and the truth of that and the honesty behind that, so the only thing that you can control in life is yourself.
Mm.
That's it. You can't control
Yeah.
anything else. You can only control yourself. And the most important thing to control is your thoughts,
Mm,
because your thoughts lead to your actions, which lead to your results,
mm.
which is why the relationship you have with yourself is so important, because it's actually the foundation, the platform, the source of all of your thoughts.
Mm.
Therefore, all of your actions and all of your results.
And
So,
also of all of your relationships, because it's
yeah,
very
yeah.
easy to get caught up in our identity and in our career. If we identify ourselves as our career, like what we do for a job, or we identify ourselves with our relationships, if we're parents, all of that, like, it doesn't take anything away from that, but you need to be able to identify with yourself. And you are the only person that can know yourself in your entirety, because every single person that you know or have ever met sees you through a lens.
Mm-hmm.
So we all want to be seen as we are and as ourselves and loved as ourselves, but with those lenses, we can't. We can be loved through many different lenses, but in our entirety, as we are, with all everything that we are, all of our contradictions, all of the sides of us, that's up to us. That's up to us to witness and to love and to know.
Yeah, and it's important to understand about that word, the lens through which people see you. If people want to have more context and understanding around that, and it's because they are not just seeing you, but they are seeing the world, everything that gets said and done, every experience, every person, and they are seeing that as the person that they are, through their
Mm,
own experiences and their learned beliefs and behaviors have told them what it means when someone does this, or what it means when someone says this, or when this happens or that happens, or this is how people
mm,
are, this is how the world is. So they are looking through the lens of what they have been created to be. So
Mm,
it's important to understand that as well. So
yeah.
so so after that experience, obviously you really got to grips with yourself, and ended up in this wonderful world of movement and mindfulness. So
Yeah.
you teach. So tell us about that. Tell us about exactly what you do, and how people can get hold of you. We'll put all the links in the show notes anyway. But yeah, just let people know how they can get hold of you if they're interested in finding out more about what you do.
Okay, so I still teach a bit of Pilates in studios. What I'm really working on at the moment is more of my I have a meditation course that I'm about to release, and also some workshops that are around these kind of like self-love, knowing yourself. I also do workshops with crystals. So all of this is kind of, I think once coronavirus came and we all went into lockdown, because I've been developing my intuitive work over the last few years. Once I got into meditation, I started getting into gong baths, and that can really be a gateway to a lot of the sort of metaphysical stuff. So I've
What
returned
was that? Do you want to explain that? What did you say? Gong?
gong baths. So with the gong instruments,
I know.
so they're,
Yeah.
you know, like if you think of like a
Yeah,
Chinese gong.
I love the gong. I'm just wondering about what you said there. It sounds very interesting. Gong baths.
Yeah, so I don't like to call it a gong bath, but that's kind of what they're generally called. I call it a sound immersion, but basically the sounds of the instruments just wash over your body. So
Yes.
it can have a very, very relaxing effect on your brain. It can kind of, your brain waves can synchronize into a more relaxed state because they
Yes.
synchronize with the sound waves. And then also the vibrations from the sounds and the instruments can
Go
kind of,
through you.
exactly. So they're really, really powerful. And since I started doing that, so I've done my training in that a couple of years ago. And that's another thing that I've been doing. In London, teaching Pilates, teaching meditation, doing these events with my gongs, with my beautiful gong babies, as I like to call them. And um, that work has really kind of opened me up more to understanding energy and things. I've done my Reiki attunements as well. So I've kind of gone down that road. And then once coronavirus hit, I just sort of had a sense that what I have to offer is more on that side of things than the teaching Pilates, even though I am still teaching and I still love teaching. But I feel like my intuitive work and the kind of meditation is just more of what I have to offer for what people need right now. Um, so yeah, so I'm launching a meditation course soon, and really just continuing to do events. Some of them are in person in Brisbane, some of them are online. So you can find me. My website is Lunar Apogee, which is it's a phase of the moon. So it's LUNAAPOGEE. That's me on Instagram, and also my website is lunarapogee.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I can,
Thank you.
yes, I could literally, I love sound ceremonies, sound
Yes.
meditation, as you were saying, and
Yes.
literally to feel the vibration. Anyone listening, if you've never done this and you get a chance to go to a sound ceremony,
Yeah.
often there's singing bowls and gongs. Here
Mm.
in Australia, they'll often include a didgeridoo, and they create these very, very vibrational sounds. And they definitely are, they allow very, very deep meditation. For me, I do self-hypnosis with them, but it's
Yeah.
the vibration going through the body that allows for that incredible connection between mind and body. And I love going to them, and I'd highly recommend it for anyone. They're just fantastic, and an amazing thing to experience if you've never done it. So
And they can be very, very healing as well. So this kind of
very.
brainwave state that we go into is kind of a state of emotional processing. So anything can happen. Sometimes people have emotional releases. Sometimes people just get very, very relaxed. But I always say that whatever happens is kind of what needs to happen. So just surrender, don't judge it, and just allow for the journey. But if anyone does want to check out my sound meditations, I am on the Insight Timer app, which is free, and you can find me by searching for Eloise Skye. So it's Skye.
Wonderful. Yep. And if you make sure we've got those links, we'll definitely put them in the show notes.
Perfect.
And yeah, hopefully you'll get some people coming along to your next sound meditation ceremony. If I was in Brisbane, I would come. So
Well,
yeah,
I'll let you know
sorry.
if I come to WA.
Yes, you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm always looking for them over here. There aren't
Yeah.
that many of them. I need to be doing my own. That's what I need to do.
Yes.
I need to get some singing bowls. Is what I really love. But
Yes.
yes, I need to get some singing bowls and learn to play them because they are my absolute favorite thing. They're my favorite thing. It must be something about the vibration of them because I get into such an incredibly deep hypnotic state with
Yeah.
singing bowls. It's wonderful. I've done so much processing and healing and connecting with them. Yeah, fantastic. And of course, everyone is different, but and the didgeridoo
Exactly.
the same. There's nothing
Yeah.
like the vibration of a didgeridoo going right through you, is there? It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
It's very powerful. I haven't mastered being able to play, but I think I'll leave that to everyone else.
So, well, thank you for sharing your story, and yeah, thank you for all that you do, helping people just come back to themselves and to really just escape from the busyness of life, and to get more connected to who they really are.
Yes,
So
for
yeah,
sure.
thank you so much for that, and thank you for sharing your story. I always think that women that come on this show, they have so much courage to tell a story, so that it helps others who might be in a similar situation. I really, really appreciate you doing that, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope that that your audience has found it useful, and anyone is welcome to reach out to me if they have any questions or if they want to talk out to everyone, talk about anything. I'm always an open door person, so feel free to get in touch.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and thanks for being here.